There once existed an ancient Japanese tradition, a ritual perhaps even, through which one could demonstrate tremendous remorse and make up for even the gravest of sins. This was known as seppuku, or more correctly, harakiri, literally to cut one's own stomach, as that was exactly what one did. One would carve open one's own stomach, and then your best buddy would decapitate you with a katana to prevent you from screaming and thus further dishonoring yourself. Now, in a modern context, this is often considered a bit much, but I suppose there are exceptions to every rule. The head of risk assessment for the Silicon Valley Bank, the bank that recently collapsed and took billions of dollars with it, was without a head of risk assessment, a boss man underneath the boss man, you know, the guy responsible for the day-to-day running of things, for 9 months, because the person responsible for hiring one of those was busy organizing a month-long pride campaign and a lesbian visibility day. You literally cannot make this shit up. It's well, on the bright side, you know, it's got to be one hell of a party, because this must now be the most expensive pride campaign in history. I'm sorry. It's just like $1 billion or so just straight down the drain because the boss man responsible for hiring the guy that does the day-to-day running of risk management for an investment bank was too busy with her woke nonsense. If that ain't go woke, get broke, I don't know what is. And of course, it gets better. So the person who was supposed to be hiring this guy that was, you know, going to assess all the risks and make the necessary adjustments and recommendations, well, it is this woman right here, J. Ersap. Oh, and by the way, YouTube, just in case the whole seppuku thing, I am joking. Though I do have a katana I could lend her, I suppose. Oh god, less spicy, Arch. So, this is the person right here. So this is one of the head honchos at a massive bank, a huge tech bank, right? And when you come to these banks with billions of dollars, millions at the very least, right? You want the best. You want the guy who graduated Harvard in 7 minutes and has been managing a hedge fund since the age of 7, you know? The best in the world. And you're gonna ask his qualification. He's gonna give you like a binder this thick of all of the incredible shit he's pulled. And then you call in the next applicant and sit her down. And it's, oh hi, so what are your qualifications? Well, I'm brown, I'm an immigrant, you see, as well, working class, no fancy education. Oh, and by the way, I do like vagina. Well, you're hired. We work on a quota system here in Silicon Valley Bank, you see. And hey, worst part is, that's basically not a joke either, as these are their values, engaging in empowering, well, I mean, they are impoverishing their employees now, empowering employees, building a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Silicon Valley Bank, champion inclusivity in the innovation economy, supporting communities where we live and work, advancing the transition to a sustainable, low-carbon world, practicing responsible corporate governance. Oh, fantastic! But what about taking care of all of my money? Is that at any point a priority? No, of course not. Well, I suppose this other chick here, well, at least she kinda talks about, she talks about managing her part of the business, so there are elements of Silicon Valley Bank that have at least considered doing their job. It's just that, you know, they didn't have anybody telling them when to stop lending out money, I guess. The banking crisis in America is also fully ongoing at this point in time, with, I mean, there's been there's 3 banks that have closed now. This is the 4th that might be closing. First Republic Bank falls nearly 70%, trading halted after collapse of SVB Signature, and of course the other bank, which name escapes me at the moment, the cryptocurrency one. There is also a bunch of other banks that have stopped trading entirely so as to make sure that, well, they don't disappear either. And it is a hefty old list, as you can see here. There are quite a few banks that the government have now stepped in and made sure that they can't be traded or sold or undercut or anything like that, and to trying to avoid a run on the banks, because of course this is the problem here. It's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you go out into the news and make speeches and stuff and tell people that, oh, by the way, the banking system is collapsing, people might then think that, well, I would like it if my money wasn't lost alongside everybody else's, and they might go out and take their money back, which the banks are in all due likelihood not prepared for, because, well, if you put $100 in the bank doesn't actually have $100. If it is being particularly responsible, it'll have $50 at least. If it's not, like the Silicon Valley Bank, well, I hope you can eat pocket lint, because that's all you're gonna be left with at that point. God. Oh, it's not quite as dark as it sounds. I mean, we're not in a full-on bank crash yet, at the very least, and we even got a little bit of spare time on our hand too, like speculating why this is happening now all of a sudden. So the real reason is that there's been a long-term dip down in the tech industries, because the tech industries have been running way beyond their limits for ages now, essentially being granted access to infinite quantities of investor money via the ESG scam, straight up. Money was very easy to come by for a very long time, and now that the wokies have finally managed to drive every single entertainment industry into the ground, well, even the investors are starting to look at the lack of return and raising some questions. But there are some interesting other theories as well. Silicon Valley poured money into FTX with few strings attached. So those of you who were paying a bit of attention back in a little while ago, FTX was a cryptocurrency exchange bank system thingy-bobby-bob, who was alleged to be engaged in all sorts of interesting business in Ukraine. Some claimed it was outright money laundering for the Democratic Party in America. Now, this has been declared a post-spin baseless theory about FTX, Ukraine, and Democrats, but, well, I don't know. I'm not sure I believe anybody when they tell me that something is baseless anymore. I'm just not sure anymore, you know? If you really want to throw me off the scent, make CNN run a headline going, yes, the Democrats definitely did engage some shady business in Ukraine. I will look at that and think to myself, smokescreen, and move on to the next fire. But, oh well, here we are. And there is also the fact that the FTX dude, Sam Bankman-Fried, well, he did have a fair few little charitable donation to politics, including some Republicans. There are 3 pages here of Republican donations, there we go, and there are 15 pages, of Democratic donations. One might certainly see why someone might speculate that something slightly weird has been happening here, considering all this money went into it, they had close ties with Ukraine being a part of it, and then the money seemingly just reappeared in enormous Democratic donations. But I don't think there's anything anywhere near as complex as a cover-up story or anything like that. It seems to be that a banking system that was specifically based around the tech industry, which is what the Silicon Valley Bank was, as the name somewhat indicates, simply thought that the gravy train would continue on for all eternity, and that no matter what they did, the ESG money would continue flowing in. Because here's the thing, this woman clearly had something more important to do than making sure that the business was actually running safely and sustainably. And what could possibly be more important than that? Well, making sure that the money kept flowing. And if your primary source of revenue are people that are obsessed with wokeist garbage, well, you might take a lot of care to make sure that you are up to date on the latest NPC programming, which was, in all due sensuality, this woman's entire job. Literally. And here's the thing too. Of course, she made El Grando whoopsie with this, no doubt about it, but her job, in all due likelihood, wasn't again actually to run the business, it was to be the great big virtue signal in the sky, going, look at us, we are very inclusive, we do a great deal for the LGBTQ++++ community, and therefore you should bring your billions to us. We're not going to promise you we're going to take care of them, but we are going to promise you that we have a whole host of charitable donations that we give to the underprivileged and the marginalized, who, come to our billionaire bank for services. Listen, there's a lot of marginalized peoples in the billionaire circles of Silicon Valley, okay? Though, to be fair, there are going to be a lot more marginalized people now. Couldn't happen to a better group of people, I guess. Now, let us hope it ends there, though, because a full-on bank collapse, followed by the inevitable bailouts, of course, as, well, the problem is the banking system is actually genuinely too large to fail, because so much of the economy is built on banks, on loans, and the entire system around that if it goes boof like a house of cards, well, a lot of things go boof with it, so just simply letting it fall apart isn't really an option either. But if anyone is actually smart about it, well, regulations are a good thing when it prevents, the collapse of modern society, or the entirety of the banking system. Just saying. We don't know if it's quite that serious yet, but, there are rumblings at the very least. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.